All right, folks, welcome back to the Night's Watch. I'm Jacob.
I'm Alex.
And Alex, man, times are changing. It was only like 95 degrees yesterday. Starbucks has the fall menu out.
We actually have hockey news.
I said, and
this week's been full of news.
And there's actually hockey news. All signs point to us getting closer to the actual season. Thank God.
Yeah, it seems sure like Doug Armstrong shot a fucking fire into people's asses and said, "You guys better wake up before I steal all your RFAs."
I know. Time to come back from the cottage, folks. Time to do some work. Time to get ready.
Speaking of Doug Armstrong, he took Broberg and Holloway. They didn't match, despite looking like that they were making deals to keep at least one of them. They traded away Cody Ceci, and that opened up money, and all signs point to Kane going on LTIR.
Mm-hmm.
But
which I still think he's going to.
And their reasoning is like, we want to be flexible, but their flexibility is still only $5 million. That's not a lot of room for what's out there right now.
Yeah. Well, I'll share my thoughts on the Kane situation in a little bit, but just to get back to the beginning. So yeah, we talked about it last week. The Blues offer sheeted to Oilers RFAs, Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg. And like you said, I was starting to think they were going to match just because of the moves they were making. They shipped off Cody Ceci to the Sharks, so that's like 3 point something in cap space.
It's a good amount of money, yeah. And that's for Holloway at minimum. And then
then did they make it out? They shipped someone else off?
No, they got what made everybody think that Holloway was definitely gone is they got Podkolzin from his name from Vancouver.
Vasily Podkolzin.
From Vancouver, like a failed Vancouver prospect, essentially. Yep. And then they got him to technically replace Holloway. And we're like, okay, they're going to keep Broberg. They didn't keep Broberg.
Yeah. So, yeah, what was your thought? Were you shocked? Were you not shocked?
I was shocked they didn't keep Broberg because, after we talked last week, I thought more about it, and he's more valuable than Holloway.
Yeah, a more premium position.
Yeah, and he's a very young defenseman. He's fast. He can move the puck. He basically gives you like a middle pairing, lesser Bouchard, still being very young. And then, he's still young enough and fast enough and big enough to cover up for Darnell Nurse's shitty defense. But then also in Holloway, you lose a key penalty killer after, McDavid and I think Nugent Hopkins are their top two penalty killers, and they were pairing Holloway with, I think, Janmark.
Yeah, and then just playing just youth of any kind.
Yeah, they got older.
Scoring depth. We talked about it last week, and we'll talk about it again in the future, but everyone sure loves to stroke off the Oilers for their scoring depth, but
it's gone.
It kind of, it disappears after a second line, which consists of Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson.
Fantastic. I was looking at Victor Arvidsson the other day. He, the most games he ever played in a single season was like 65.
Yep. So,
and that was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Can't go wrong.
But anyways, they got offer sheeted. Great for us. I mean, we'll get to our Pacific preview, in a couple weeks, but that's even better for, the Pacific and, frankly, the Western Conference. They lose 2 key young guys that were kind of drivers of the playoff. I mean, Holloway was playing great in the playoff run,
and Broberg had a pretty good, pretty good playoff.
Let's just say Broberg wasn't the problem in that middle bottom pairing.
Well, Edmonton. It was funny though. I was listening to Puck Soup on the way here. Lambert said something along the line. He was talking about that. He's like, yeah, everyone's talking about how good his playoffs were. So I looked it up. He's like, yeah, he had a PDO of like 180 or something. I was like, oh shit. I was like, that's not sustainable.
No.
And even then, he's like, with a PD, he was on the ice for 6 goals, 4. And he's like, that should have been like, with a PDO like that should have been like 9-1 or something. So even then, it still wasn't that good. So I was like, yeah. We'll see. He's young.
He's young. He's got room to grow, and I think going to St. Louis,
with how dog shit Edmonton's defense core is,
it's huge loss. I mean, they're gonna. They brought in Ty Emberson in the CC trade from San Jose, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's shut down. He's this." I'm like, he played, but you look at the stats. He played 30 games. There's some dumb stat I sent you.
What was that ridiculous stat you sent me?
It was like,
made me fucking laugh.
He played 30 games, despite playing 30 games and averaging 18 minutes a night. He played against top. He was out there against top end forwards. Even then, what do you classify that? They only pointed out 2 top end forwards, and they were like, "Oh, he was out there against Jack Hughes and I think Austin Matthews,
yeah.
and he only scored a goal each on him. Like, what
So
is
you're
that
saying
stat?
he got scored
He
on?
got scored on by both of them. I'm like, okay, like what is the stat? And then you open up Hockey Reference, and his stat, he's played 30 games and was a -9 with 18 minutes. Yeah, I know San Jose was bad, but he's probably playing with Mario Ferraro, who's a pretty good defenseman in his own right. And
to me,
and Ty Emerson's probably the 5th best defensive prospect in that pool now with all their guys that they picked up.
Yeah, to me, it's like it's just pure copium.
Yeah.
Because all I've seen from Oilers fans is like, well, actually, Broberg was shit, and this Emerson kid, he's the real deal, guys. If you think about it, we're actually better now.
Despite being a year older, and now you're going to have either Josh Brown or Troy Stetcher playing on the bottom pairing. Troy Stetcher was a scratch for Arizona last year, I think.
Yeah, and Josh Brown is like literally the worst player in the league.
Yeah, statistically, the worst player in the entire NHL. Like, you can look it up. Like, I saw the stats page. Literally 0%.
He's big.
He's a fucking pylon.
He plays on the right, so
that's problem solved. So
problem solved.
Oilers got noticeably worse. Great for us. Love it. A couple other moves we saw this week. Some big things. Laine went to Montreal. I know we're going to be talking about the Atlantic today on our season preview. This is huge for Montreal.
Yeah,
and they didn't really have to give up much. It was Jordan Harris, and that was it, right?
I think so. And then
they got back Laine in a second, I think, just to take the whole contract.
Yeah, which cracked me up because, all the comments are all these fucking Montreal fans like, wow, fucking all bow before Kent Hughes. What a fleece job. I'm like, not really. I mean, people are like, why did they have to give a second? That makes no sense. Like, I still feel like the average fan doesn't know how the cap works.
Yeah, doesn't understand how important retention is.
Yeah, or understand the economics of the cap. I'm like, the fact that Don Waddell is able to move that contract with 0 retention is a fucking miracle.
Yeah, literally. We'll talk about it in our preview. Everybody's like immediately, as if they weren't already hyped up on it already. Everybody's now back onto the hype train of like, oh, Montreal's going to be in the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, it's Patrick Laine. It doesn't change that their defense isn't that great. It doesn't change that their goaltenders are Sam Montembeau and
their center core fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's Nick Suzuki and
like
Kirby Dach.
Jake Evans.
So yeah, they still have work to do. I mean, it makes them better. I 100% agree, especially if he can get back to scoring the way he was scoring. It's just this team's still very young and still not quite. They might sneak in, but it's going to be a cap situation where we're going to sneak in and they're going to get fucking steamrolled by the Rangers or somebody insane.
A real team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and as far as Laine himself, I know.
Who knows where he's at this point? He hasn't played hockey in a year? Yeah,
I was going to say because I was looking at his stats, he's been. I know I talked about this when you mentioned maybe we could go for him. Yeah, he's been he's played 40 games a year the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's not been good. There's all signs point to him not playing a whole season.
And his goal scoring that's supposed to be his whole thing is his goal scoring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I feel like people in people's minds, they Patrick Laine, that's a 40 goal scorer. I'm like, he scored that once in his rookie year. That was 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, my favorite thing I saw is Montreal's now got the two best 50 goal scorers to never score 50 goals.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean,
it's gonna fit right in.
It's
with goal Caulfield.
Yeah, they keep talking about it, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's a goal scorer." I'm like, he's only scored over under 30. Yeah. He's never been over 30. Eichel's been over 30. I mean, Carlson's been over 30. He hit 30 last year.
Yep.
I know Caulfield's young, and there should be hype around him, but he's been in the league, frankly, for 3 years at this point.
Yeah,
3-4 years, going to be his 4th year, I think. And he's only ever scratched 25, and he's small. He's got a small frame. I don't know how that.
To me, I'm like, he's hitting the point where I'm like, he's not a young guy.
Put up
anymore.
or shut up
He's
now. Yeah,
you're in your prime.
He's gonna get surpassed by people in that. Prospects.
If he has another,
Slafkovsky had a great year last year.
Exactly.
Ivan Demidov is gonna be coming into that team pretty fucking soon.
Yeah.
He's in danger of being surpassed by other prospects because he just doesn't. He's plateaued between 25 and 30. Yeah, you need those guys on your team, but not in the top 6.
Yeah, well, maybe we should save this for the Montreal talk.
Exactly.
But point being,
Laine to Montreal.
Laine to Montreal. I think it was a smart trade for both sides. because
when you get rid of the contract,
Montreal does need some kind of boost, and this was what was available, and they didn't pay a high price by any means.
Yes.
And then Columbus, you had to get him out of there.
Jettison it. Yep. You can
get him out of there.
You can go full rebuild mode. You don't have the only contract that's really tying you down is Zach Rowinski, and even then it's not that bad.
At least he plays up to it.
Yeah, at least Rowinski's a very good player. So.
And then of course Johnny Gaudreau. But maybe when we do the Metro, we'll get into that.
Yeah, and then from there, another trade that's been talked about for a long time is where was Rucker McGroarty going to go? He ended up going to the Pens for Braden Yeager. And it's 1-for-1. I think this is a good hockey trade, good prospect trade.
Agreed.
McGroarty was never going to play for the Jets.
Swap. I think I know McGroarty's a year older, but they were both number 14 picks.
This is the thing. We talked about this early in the week because we can just also mention this one. Askarov went to the Sharks for Edstrom and Magnus Krona. These young guys, like 18, 20-year-olds, are basically forcing their ways into trades. We saw it with Cutter Gauthier last season. Forcing their way into trades with ever setting up foot on even AHL ice. I mean, Askarov is a different story because he was an animal in the AHL. He beat the shit out of us a couple times when we saw him again when the Admirals played here. Yeah,
but then also with goalies, I'm like, yeah, you're good in the A, but
he's only 22.
Exactly,
Askarov's only 22, so young.
And someone posted a list yesterday or today. I was like, oh, the top goalies that were considered the top goalie at prospect in the last 10 years. And I was like, I think only 2 of these guys
actually panned out,
had a decent career. The rest, I'm like,
it's such a crapshoot. Yeah.
I was like, Magnus Hellberg was ever considered a top prospect?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's such a crapshoot, especially with goalies. You never know what can happen to them, and then also they're so fucking mentally crazy. Some of them are crazy, some of them are just out there. Yeah. I mean, McGroarty went to the Pens, Yeager to the Jets. I think it's a good trade for both of them. And the Askarov to the Sharks. The Preds got Edstrom and Krona. I think both these trades are good. And the Preds also got the first that we sent in the Hurdle trade.
Our first round pick.
So I think the Preds got a good deal there. Yeah, they got a future prospect who's good. They got a goalie prospect and they got a first, all for Askarov. So I think that's great for them.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of people like, that's all you got for Askarov. I'm like, he's a prospect.
That's all.
A goalie prospect. I'm like that's
a haul.
That's
for a guy that's never played an NHL game.
I'm like that would be
a lot.
That would be a big price tag for a roster
starting
player,
starting goaltender. That'd be a great haul for say for somebody like Connor Hellbuck even.
I would say didn't New Jersey get Markstrom for
nothing,
like a second,
second and second and maybe a deep roster player, or not even a top 15 prospect.
Goalies never seem to get what people think they're going to get.
This is a great deal for Nashville. This is a great deal for Nashville,
and it's a great deal for the Sharks.
Yeah, they get a high end goalie prospect that they don't have. They're filling out all their pieces.
I hate to admit it, but that prospect pool is starting to look pretty good.
Mike Greer is doing a great job.
So in a couple years. It might get painful again because we'll be on the decline and they'll be on the upswing.
Exactly. So let's get into a couple little VGK things. I think the first thing I wanted to talk about is the AHL is mandating neck protection, cut-resistant neck protection for all players and referees, on-ice referees next season. I mean, we saw, was it Jake Bischoff? He was wearing it all last year. And he looked fucking nice. He looked like one of those... villains in a hockey movie. Pretty sick.
I love the turtleneck look because I feel like they're all about they look like they could just offer you a glass of whiskey at any time.
Exactly. No, I think this is great. I mean, obviously that horrible story a couple of years ago with that player in England, terrible thing that happens. But I think this is needed. I mean, I'm appalled sometimes when we go to AHL games and the goalies aren't wearing neck guards.
Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Marc-Andre Fleury's built a career off of having that big fat neck guard.
Yeah, and it's for them. It's like maybe not even skates. But you're getting hammered with pucks, dude. You want a 90-mile-an-hour slap shot to cave in your trachea?
Yeah, exactly. It's just so scary. You're fucking skating around with fucking knives on your feet. And, it's such a scary thing. Even with Evander Kane, remember Evander Kane when he fell and he got his wrist cut and he was just fucking squirting blood.
Yeah, that was, as much as I hate him, I was like, that's scary.
I thought he was gonna die that night.
Exactly. I was like, as much as I hate him, I'm like, well, I don't want to watch him.
I don't want to watch him die. Yeah.
God damn. It's just a game, y'all.
It's so scary. It's frankly long overdue.
I agree.
This is like with
It's kind of
visors.
Like, exactly as I say. It's like it's to me it's crazy how long players played without a helmet at all.
Ryan O'Reilly's still playing without a visor. And Jamie Benn
and Reeves
because they were grandfathered in. That's crazy to think though. Like no buckets, no helmets for a long time,
and then they finally mandate the buckets, but no visors.
Yeah, but they also grandfathered everybody in. If you were drafted before this point,
it moves slow. Yeah.
That's insane to me, but like good thing the A said no, we're not making any exceptions. Everybody's got to wear protection.
I would not be shocked if this makes its way to the NHL in a few years.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be within 2 to 3 years. You're going to see it. I mean, there's plenty of guys that already put it on last year or 2 years ago after that happened. And
and it's to me it's just a little silly in the sense that a lot of the motivation to not wear one just seems to be like, well, it looks dumb, or
it looks dumb. But
like guys, I'm like, I get it. You want everyone has their on ice style, but who cares?
Yeah, do you want your fucking throat slashed
exactly
by someone having like in a freak accident by someone falling over, or like you get into a scrum and you fall down and someone steps on your neck or some shit like that? And
I'm like, you know what, guys? Style changes. If Obi can go out there with his weird baggy jersey and his long pants and his tinted visor and just be so cool that all that weird shit becomes iconic, then guess what? You can make a neck guard iconic.
Exactly.
Just be good.
I think it'll look cool.
Just play well while you wear it.
I think it'll be fine. I think, like you said, it'll come to the NHL and give it 2-3 years. It'll come here.
So we'll be seeing all turtlenecks at the Henderson games.
Sweet. I think it'll look cool. And then Tanner Pearson signed to a PTO with the Knights this last week.
I can honestly say this took me by complete surprise.
I had no idea he was still in the league. I mean, he played with Vancouver last year. No.
He was with Montreal last year.
Yeah. Vancouver the year before, I think.
He played with Vancouver for a few years and had some of his best. He played for LA. He won the cup in LA.
Yes.
Went to Vancouver, had some strong years, and then he kind of he got injured and he was kind of gone for a while, and it seems like he fell off. I don't know if you remember this, but
he's in his early 30s too. He's not
like old.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was he had a wrist injury or a hand injury.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the injury that caused the problem. It was Vancouver's medical staff completely botched
it.
Yeah,
this was who this was, because they refused to let him have hand surgery, and he had like such bad damage in his hands that it was causing nerve damage in his hands.
Yeah, and
so a Jack Eichel situation.
Exactly. So it turned into an NHLPA situation.
This is who that is. I forgot.
He ended up needing like 4 or 5 surgeries on his hand.
Jeez.
He probably should have just got the one to begin with, and he would have been just fine.
I mean,
but the team was like, no.
Look at the Jack Eichel situation.
Exactly. Yeah. It seems like, get your ass out on the ice. We want you out on the ice.
Wow. I forgot this was Tanner Pearson. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. And do you remember when it happened, Quinn Hughes publicly called out his own team?
Yeah. I remember.
It was like a post-game scrum, and they were talking about it. I was like, yeah, and unfortunately the team mishandled that situation and blah, blah, blah. And, obviously all is forgotten now that Vancouver finally had a good year, but that was when it seemed like they were at a real low point. I think it was one of the reasons why Jim Benning got fired.
Yes,
finally.
More than I 100% assume. So yeah, I mean, it depends if he makes it. I think he can make the team, like be like a bottom 6 roller, or like an extra. Like if we need a bottom 6 player,
if he's back to his normal self, I think he would really change the look of our bottom 6.
Yes. Yeah, he's a good. He's playing well. Yeah,
I'd say he can score. Obviously, he hasn't hit 20-something goals in a while, but he's still usually like 10 plus.
And again, he's not that old. He's still only 30, 31.
Yeah, and his two-way play, I think he's one of those players that I love in the sense that when their offense starts to drop, he puts in the effort to work on other areas of his game.
Yeah.
So his two-way play has gotten a lot better.
I feel like this is
he's pretty responsible.
Yeah, I feel like this is a very calculated PTO.
Yes.
In that they might have plans for like Carlson moving up in the lineup and like kind of shifting around those centers. Because I do think Nick Waugh can play third line center. I mean, we saw Nick Waugh played fucking first line center for a month there. Well, was killing it.
I would say, it's funny because I was watching hockey YouTube, and it was kind of auto playing, and one of the ones was the game recap of Game 5 against Colorado in the playoffs. And I was like, it's crazy to think that at one time we had a third line of Matthias Janmark, Nick Waugh, and Alex Tuck.
That's a good third line.
Yeah.
I think they move. I do think this is calculated. Like I said, they might be moving some bodies around and maybe taking pressure off of certain players. And because we've got
and he's not going to command a lot of money. So
No.
say he makes it, we have enough cap
probably
space.
all of $1
to
million.
Just
If
give him
that,
like a 1x1 or 1 by league minimum.
950, 925. It's not gonna break the bank. Yeah, I think this is a good one. The names that were out there, I'm like, I just didn't realize, like you said, I didn't think he was still playing hockey.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like I said, he got traded to Montreal,
Yes.
and
Got the surgeries and everything.
yeah, and he was okay, but
And he's on Montreal. Montreal was dog shit. Yeah.
I say Montreal was last in that division
Yeah,
for
exactly.
like 3/4 of the year. So
Exactly.
I don't think he was making too many headlines.
And then last little piece, the Mark Stone interview he had this week with Gary Lawless.
Good read.
Good
Go
read.
Check it out, y'all.
It's short, not too long. Basically saying, I think his big quote was, "The rest of the league wants to see us fail." And that set off so many fucking
he said
whiners.
He said the league wants to watch the Golden Knights crash and burn.
Yep.
And that is very true.
Very true. It's 100% true. At first, it was like, I remember we were talking about this. At first, people were just like, "Oh, I'm like, yeah, well, you think you're so high on yourself, Mark." And then eventually it's like, yeah, we want to see him crash and burn, but they have no real reason why. Other than, well, they use LTIR. I'm like, okay,
well, I was gonna
cool,
say,
buddy.
we had a whole episode about this.
Yeah, about talking about this.
There's my favorite meme page is called Goal Team
Yep.
Bad.
Yeah.
And it's just about nothing but this.
But
about
this interview is great.
the irrational hatred this team has towards it.
The team clearly sees this, and they are also seeing that the league again is counting them out. And you want your captain to come out and be this vocal. He said in the interview, they were talking about his injuries, and they're like, "Oh, you're back." Then you got this, and he's like, "This year," like we talked about last week. He was like, "This year was different. I felt great. I was playing great." He was like, "I was." He's like, "I was over a point per game."
Yep.
And then my spleen just got injured. And he's like, "I felt incredible," and then that just happened. It was he literally said it was a freak accident.
Well, and
like literally echoed exactly what we talked about last week.
Yeah,
like,
when we're doing Stone over under games played.
Yep.
I went with over just because I was like, I have faith that the chronic issue, which was his back, the chronic issue has been fixed. The spleen was kind of a freak accident.
Hearing that like made me change my mind. I'm like, he's gonna go over. Like,
oh yeah.
It seems like he feels great. Like Jack Eichel's back, back doctor, back surgeon fixed him up.
Yeah, we can talk about this obviously when we do our own preview, but part of me is like, I kind of would like to see him on the top with Eichel and Barbashev, because I feel like with Barbie throwing himself around, maybe Stone won't feel the need to be
like so far in there
as intense
active.
physically as he is.
He can be more of like a Barkov, like in the middle of the ice, kind of like sticking, pulling pucks away. Yeah, I think this interview is great. Go read it if you haven't.
And I will say, like, again, to me, what cracked me up was how every comment was like, "God, this guy's so insufferable. Like, you think everyone think it's all about you, blah, blah, blah." Even Big Head Hockey made a post where it was like, Mark Stone was like listing off his achievements. And then at the bottom two he put was, always goes on LTIR in February and somehow thinks the whole league hates him. I was like, I was like,
they do.
Exactly. I was like, it's like, well, you're kind of proving the point, because one, you felt the need to make this post, and two, the quote from that interview went completely viral. It was the top post on Reddit.
Yep.
All the Instagram comments were all inflamed. All right, and then the quote, just so we all hear it, in case you didn't see it, says, "As I've gotten older, I've realized that people are going to put a bullseye on our back because they want to see us fail. We haven't failed too much in our history. People want to see the Golden Knights crash and burn."
It's a very valid quote, because we have failed exactly one time in our history. We didn't make the playoffs. Every other year, we have made the playoffs, or and last year, we missed. We were out in the first round, but we're playing against Dallas. Shit happens. Most years we made it past the first round, made it to the conference finals. We've won a cup more than fucking most people in the league.
I was going to say, my count, I'm trying to count in my head. We have 3 or 4 division titles.
Yes.
2.
Hey, when we go to a preseason game this year, we can go count.
We'll go count. We'll go count the banners,
yeah,
ladies and
exactly.
gentlemen. We'll go count the banners. I'm just so used to them by now.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a success.
Yeah, but anyways, I think we have 3 or 4 division titles. Yep. We have the 2 Western champions, and then the Stanley Cup.
Yep, exactly. And we've been extremely successful in our short 7. It's gonna be 8 years now. And short 8-year lifespan.
And as I mentioned during that Gold Team Bad episode, we also have a fun habit of eliminating Canadian teams from the playoffs.
Eliminating
those scrappy underdogs.
Or eliminating somebody that
to go against the
everybody
big bad
loves.
Knights.
Yep. I think I saw something funny, kind of speaking of Canadian teams everybody loves. I don't know if you watch watch Bar Down on Sportsnet. One of the guys, they're doing like one of their quizzes or something. I was watching it. One of the guys was like, you know what? I'm sick of people thinking that Edmonton was Canada's team. Fuck them. Yeah. I was like, fuck this shit. Like, and he was like, because he's a Toronto fan. He was like, if Toronto was here, everybody would be going like, I hate Toronto. But now we're all behind Edmonton. Shut the fuck up. I was like, God damn. Nice. He was like going on a tirade. I'm like, hell yeah, brother. I love you. Yeah. But that's all to say is like, he said something that's very obvious. No, Stone said something very obvious that's always out in the whatever media it is. It doesn't matter if it's fans, what he said was, hockey media, anything. Everybody just doesn't like the Golden Knights. Our Stanley Cup run, like we talked about, everybody picked against us.
What's crazy is like to me what he said like wasn't even that inflammatory.
No, he wasn't saying like, oh, they're fucking stupid for saying this. They're doing this. He was just said the exact words that people use.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of I remember last year in the preseason when some fucking ECHL nobody from LA fucking wiped him out.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And he got up and was like fucking yelling at him. People were like, oh, Princess Stone thinks he's too good to get hit. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
He got hit up high in a preseason game when there was really no hits going around. Well, but what he got up and he was yelling at him, and what cracked me up was the afterwards, like, oh, Vegas responded like that in a preseason. I'm like, yeah, the captain got wiped out by some fucking plug.
Well, and
because I think it was like Howden came screaming in his fucking.
Oh yeah, like half the team
was beating the shit out of the guy. Yeah,
and I'm like, and you know damn well if like fucking.
Oh, that happened to McKinnon or McDavid.
Exactly. If that happened to McDavid and all the Oilers went up and started beating up the guy, and we're like, wow, they really love their captain. Just such a passionate display of loyalty. Yep. Oh my god! But then we do it's like, oh, Princess Stone thinks he's too good to get hit, and then one more fun.
I mean, he wasn't too good to get fucking cross-checked in the back for a month on end by the Oilers. So,
and then it's also like Blues fans will always say, like, I forgot who, but like, well, I'll never forget that Stone, hit someone up high and it basically ended his career. And I remember that year that happened like in a preseason game or early in the season, and like every fucking thread, all I would see is Blues fans like, just wait until fucking we see you again. Just wait, it's gonna be a bloodbath. And then we play the game against the Blues, nothing happened. And then in the post game, they were talking to the Blues players and like, oh, did you feel you were expected to do something again about Mark Stone? And I forgot who it was, but he just
it was like one of the main guys.
It was like Perron or someone.
Yeah,
like,
I remember this.
He just like looked confused. He's like, "What?" He's like,
"We took care of it that night." Yeah.
He's like, "What?" He's like, "Oh yeah, well Mark Stone hit so and so in the head and he's missed all these games." He's like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, no, I don't know. I didn't know about that."
Yeah, they took care. Or they like
the players didn't give a shit, but the fans won't shut the fuck up.
For the most part, the players will hash it out that night or something off the ice, or if it's something that they didn't like. It's not a headhunting thing. It's not a like revenge thing. And plus, it's the Blues and the Knights. They play maybe twice a year.
3 times. Most. No, because they're West.
Times, so maybe.
Depends on the year. You play everyone at least twice. I think we've had years where we played them like 3 times.
Yeah, but like it's.
I think the only time was ever more than that was the COVID. Were we in the same division in the COVID bubble?
I don't remember. Maybe, but yeah. But what we're saying is, fans hold on to grudges. And it's probably a player that, frankly, was barely playing anyways. I don't remember who it was. That's how we don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know who it was.
I don't know, like Bozak or someone like.
Wow, Tyler Bozak's an amazing player, but not to say that he deserves to be hit in the head. But like, pick your fucking battles. Like
exactly.
If he did that to like, for example, Brendan Kyrou
and I just remember it was like such a nothing play because like Stone just kind of like.
Elbow,
like,
just
he didn't even hit him. Like they were skating next to each other, and he just kind of like. Yeah. Gave him a little check, and then the guy dropped like a sack of potatoes. I'm like, okay, sometimes accidents happen. Like, I don't think
Stone meant to fucking.
It's not like he pulled a Jacob Trouba and he like was flying, Superman flying with his elbow extended.
He did that to Dorofiev. And it's not like fucking Leon Draisaitl intentionally spearing multiple opponents.
Yeah,
like pick your battles. But like I love that Stone came out and had that great interview. Really got me hyped up for the season. Your captain's already ready to go.
Oh, captain, my captain.
I'm excited. So
me too.
Speaking of going into the season, we are going to go the next few weeks actually. We're going to be talking about our season previews and our kind of like what we think the divisions are going to shake out as.
Yeah, so we'll go division by division, one division per episode.
Mm-hmm.
We'll break down the teams. where we think they're going to finish this year. We'll look at where everyone finished last year.
Yep. We're going to be doing the Atlantic this week since
my Atlanta.
Jacob had the great idea of just going east to west, just so
that way
American frontier style.
But mainly to me, so we can finish with the Pacific, which is our division.
That's the goal. Why? That's where we want.
That's when hopefully we'll be at an all-time high of excitement.
Yep, exactly.
So I think the way we're going to do this is we'll look at the standings from last year, see who finished. We'll start at 8.
Yes.
We'll see who finished at 8 last year, and then I think we can do a little 3-2-1.
Yeah.
And this year, 8th place will be 3-2-1, and then we can drop our picks.
Yeah.
Because we haven't talked about it yet.
Let's do that. Yeah. So
I got it written down.
Last year in 2023, Montreal finished last in the Atlantic, 8th place.
So this year and last in the Atlantic is going to be 3-2-1
Buffalo.
Montreal. I still picked well, we'll get into it. I'll say I had a really hard time ranking these teams.
I did.
I feel like the bad teams either got worse or didn't get much better, or they got a little better or stood pat, and then the good teams got a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And I feel like this Atlantic division is just like mush.
Yeah, it's like
mush.
There's no clear top end. Like you look at the rosters, you look at the first few players, you're like, oh yeah, these are good, and then you look at the bottom 6, you're like, ooh, this is.
Yeah, and
you look at the defense, you're like, man, like how do you compare these teams? Like,
yeah, and I feel like honestly, like any argument you make, I'll be easily swayed because I'm like, yeah, I could totally see that.
So, I mean, you want to make the argument for Montreal, or you just want to go through and then you want to?
Yeah, well, let's talk about it, and then by the time we get to 1, we'll have covered all the teams pretty well.
So I'll talk about Buffalo. So
okay.
To me, Buffalo didn't get any better. I mean, they lost Jeff Skinner, which you could say it's not much of a loss, but they did lose scoring by Jeff Skinner. They did not have a good season last year.
Nope.
Alex Tuck was their top scorer, 75 games played, 59 points.
Which I love to see. Love to see
to
see Tucky do well.
That's not too exciting. I mean, Tate Thompson was 56 and 71. He did get injured. Tate Thompson's very good, but like
I think this Buffalo's fate is really going to hinge on what version of Tate Thompson they get.
Yeah, because their lineup is all right. It's young. Jason Zucker's in their top 6, which is not great.
I mean, he's good, but I think he's getting a little older.
Yeah, he is. This team is pretty young. I mean, outside of like maybe Sam Lafferty and like Nicholas Obey-Kubel, everybody's pretty young in this team. I just think going back to Lindy Ruff is a bad fucking idea.
Yeah.
Starting the coaching carousel over again. I don't have any faith in Lindy Ruff because he did not play well with young high-end talent in New Jersey.
Well, he did, and then a couple months later, everyone was convinced that he forgot how to coach, and that's why New Jersey sucked, even though their roster got fucking gutted at the most important positions.
That's true, yeah, and I don't know. I just don't know how they would play for him. I don't have that much faith in Buffalo, period, regardless of the coach.
Yeah, and they really didn't do much in the offseason.
They didn't do anything at all. They brought in Beck Molinston and Jason Zucker.
And Ryan McLeod, which
is good.
A lot of I feel like a lot of people were rolling their eyes at that move. I think that's smart. I think McLeod is
a great bottom 6
I think he's
center.
I think he's exactly what you want in a third-line center. He's young, he's fast, he can kill penalties.
Yeah, I think that's the one upgrade they have, but you look at this roster, team is very young. Tate Thompson, obviously we know he's an all-star, but JJ Peterka, Jack Quinn, Zach Benson.
And Jack Quinn is the one where I think they're
kind of
throwing a lot of
all their eggs in that basket.
Yeah. They're like, okay, he's finally gonna be healthy and he's gonna hit his potential. And I'm like, is he with Dylan Cousins as a center?
Because that's the thing. I'm like, is Dylan Cousins really a second line center? I don't think so.
I think they're hoping he will be. Honestly, but
but wasn't that where Casey Middlestat was before he got traded to the Avs?
Mm-hmm.
So
and then Sam Lafferty was pretty good in the first half of the year for Vancouver last year, but then he fell off. And
they're scratched, right?
I think it was a healthy scratch towards the end.
And their defense is Byram, Darlene, Power, Yokiharu, Samuelson, and Clifton. Connor Clifton should not be in a fucking NHL team.
Yeah, and I feel like this isn't a bad collection of guys, but I just feel like
it's a random collection of guys.
I feel like it's all like the same architect. You know what I mean? I'm like, where's your Tanev? Where's your McNabb?
Where's your Pietrangelo?
Yeah, like where's your guy that's gonna really be solid defense? Where's your stay-at-home guy that's gonna protect your net?
Like I guess Henry Yokoharu.
As I was saying, I guess Samuelson kind of fills that role, but like
he's one guy.
Yeah, because when I look at Byram and Darlene and Owen Power, I'm like, these are all offensive guys.
So yeah, I think they're going to be finishing 8th. I just don't. I'm not excited by this team at all.
I think here's the best way to sum up Buffalo. I was looking at my notes. I'm like, what did I write for Buffalo? And all I put was Buffalo Sabres. Then I just wrote, what more is there to say?
Yeah, that's it. So
they just never seem to get into the next gear.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. I took the Kool-Aid last year, thinking that they're going to have a good year.
Same.
I was made to look like a fool, so I say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, you want to talk about Montreal a little bit?
Yeah, so I still have Montreal in 8, and I was tempted to bump them up because, like I said,
I
feel like the top 4 teams, and the bottom 4 teams, you could put them in any order, and I would believe it. I ended up keeping Montreal at the bottom because I just don't think Patrick Laine is going to be what people are thinking he's going to be for them. Like we mentioned earlier, he's just so fucking lazy, and he's such a fucking dog out there. Like when he's motivated,
Marty
he can
St.
look
Louis
good.
is gonna make him work.
Yeah,
Marty really pushed these kids to really. I know they finished 8th.
He's a player's coach.
Yeah, he will push you in in the right ways, not like in a Lindy Ruff way.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if he's going to be the big shot in the arm that people are saying he's going to be. But even just looking at this team, I'm like, yeah, there's. The core is good. This is a good young core.
Their second line center is Kirby Dach, who's been injured for
I was
going to
say,
career.
To me, I've kind of, again, I'm like, fool me once, shame on me. I'm kind of over pretending that Kirby Dach is ever going to play more than 10 games in a season.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe he plays 82 and, as a high-end center.
Exactly.
But
who knows?
Alex Newhook, I think that was kind of a failed experiment. They tried to make him a reclamation project from Colorado, and I don't think it really worked.
No.
And then the rest of the center core is just brutal. Fucking Christian Dvorak, Jake Evans.
Yeah.
Brendan Gallagher is completely washed.
Yeah, he's
Armia is not good.
He's washed.
Josh Anderson, washed.
Joshua Waugh.
Yeah. And then the D core is
young and not great.
Yeah.
Mike Matheson was really good last year.
Yeah.
But Caden Gooley's young. Lane Hudson is young. David Savard's probably is old.
Yeah.
Arbor is literally just going to be a bottom pairing defenseman.
And here's the thing. Like I said, it's not that I don't think these guys aren't talented, because I think they are, but they're young.
They're young. Yep.
I just mentioned it with New Jersey. What happened in New Jersey? They sold off their vets. Dougie Hamilton got injured, and then they had all these 20-year-old defensemen, and they fucking fell apart.
Yeah, they're one Mike Matheson, David Savard injury away from filling this defense up with 18-year-olds.
Yeah. And then goaltending, I actually really do like Montembeault.
Yeah.
He's very talented. I think the only reason his stats took a hit was just because of the team he's on.
Yeah, he was in
the chances they were giving up.
He was in Florida for a long time and a very good backup, right?
Yeah, and then Caden Primo, he's okay. He's a solid backup.
Yeah, their goaltenders are fairly young.
Yeah,
and this team again. I
do think this team is due for a jump soon, but
yes,
I think people are
maybe not this year.
I think people are getting a little ahead of themselves.
Yep, I can agree with that. I can see why you did 8th. So I had Buffalo in 8th. You had Montreal in 8th. Montreal finished 8th last year.
All right, who was in 7th last year?
Ottawa.
All right. So this year in 7th is going to be 3, 2, 1, Buffalo. So as you see, I was not far off in my Buffalo ranking.
So you're right there. So we already talked about Buffalo a little bit. I can talk about Ottawa since I have them in 7th. You look at this team and kind of the same issue with Buffalo and Montreal, except Claude Giroux is old. David Perron is old. Michael Amadio is... I love Michael Amadio, but he's going to be a third-line winger. He's probably going to move up because of injuries. But that's what you bring in. They didn't do much on this team. They brought in David Perron. Cool. Your second-line center is Josh Norris. Shane Pinto is probably going to take that over by the time the season starts. But then your fourth-line center is Zach Ostapchuk. I have no idea who that is.
I would say the fourth line is pretty brutal.
Zach McEwen was a plug with, I think, Chicago. And then Noah Gregor, who we know as San Jose.
He's just kind of been floating around.
Yeah, floating around. And then their defense is Jake Sanderson, who's very good. He's still young. And then on that top pairing is Artem Zub.
Yeah, Zub's... He's not remarkable. I don't think he's bad, but he's not remarkable.
Yeah,
he's just kind of there.
Thomas Chabot, who obviously we know is very good. Nick Jensen, who they just brought in from Washington, I think. And then somebody named Tyler Clevin. I have no idea who that is. And then Jacob Bernard-Darker, who's also young. So I think the thing that bumped them up for me, maybe it was left them in 7th and didn't move them anywhere. They might be a little bit better on the goaltending because of Linus Ullmark. But does his goaltending power kind of like I wouldn't call it do nothing, but like a very boring lineup. I just don't know. I mean, I think Shane Pinto is great. I think Tim Stutzel is really good. Brady Tkachuk is good. Claude Giroux, still in his age, is good. Ridley Gregg is pretty solid, but the rest of that team, I'm like, oh, is Drake Batherson ever going to show up to being what he can actually be? Like, as he was like drafted that high. It's always been hype around Batherson. He's fucking approaching his late 20s now.
Yeah.
Like,
so I won't spoil where I have them, but I will say I was kind of shocked at myself where I put him a bit higher.
yeah.
And I kind of hate myself for it because the last 3 years I have delighted in shit talking on Ottawa because every year their delusional fans think they've gotten better.
I thought when they picked up DeBrincat, I thought they were going to finish like second in that division.
Yeah. And so I have taken so much pleasure in the past just being like, no, guys, Ottawa is going to crash and burn and fail the way they always do.
You're a little higher on them.
I this year, like I said, I won't have to tell you quite yet where I have them, but
We'll get to it.
I'll offer some counterpoints, I guess, in the sense that
Sure.
So I do like that top line.
Yes, I do too.
I think
even though Giroux's older, he still brings the two-way play that you want him to bring. He's still a playmaker.
Yeah,
Stutzel is so good.
Yeah, I said Stutzel. I think he's
Stutzel, yeah.
I think he's one of the few guys in that draft year that are really hitting where he was supposed to hit.
Yeah, he's like that unsung like center that nobody like. He's great, but like nobody has him in like top group.
Yeah, because his sophomore year he had like 90 points. Like I can see him being good. I can see him hitting like in the 80-90 range.
He had 70 points in 75 games last year, 18 goals, 52 assists.
Yeah.
So he was very good. He was minus 17, but he's probably on the ice a lot. He's on the ice for 21 minutes a night. So
I do like that first line. The second line, here's where I don't want to say it gets sketchy. I think Norris and Batherson are solid.
I do think they swapped Norris for Pinto because Pinto is good. He's very good.
And I think David Perron, I think he's still playing well, but he's definitely older. Because they signed him to what, like a 4x2 or something
Small, yeah.
So long term, I don't think it's too risky. I do think he plays with like enough of that fire where
he can still score. Yeah, he can still score a lot.
And Josh Norris, this is again where so tough projecting. If he stays healthy, I think he is definitely a second line center.
Yeah. And he's still decently young, I think. Like, right? He's not too old. He is only 24.
Yeah.
So he's still very young.
And then to me, one of the things that I really liked, I think people are kind of underestimating the Amadio pickup.
It's a great depth signing for them.
I think, and then having Shane Pinto for the full year, because I forgot he was scoring at a crazy rate last year.
An insane,
I think, and then really great. He's just okay. But I think
he's still young too. He's still a good prospect.
I think having Shane Pinto and Michael Amadio together, suddenly this team has a scoring third line, which I don't think they've ever really had. Yes. So I'm like, okay, so 3 decent scoring lines.
Shane Pinto was 41 games. He had 27 points. Was a +9. So he had a great until he got suspended.
Him coming back seemed to like completely rejuvenate that team.
Yeah, they kind of give him a little push there.
Yeah, so I think these are 3 solid lines.
Yes.
Fourth line kind of falls apart
very much.
So they're definitely not as
quite
deep
literally
as a
like
contender or anything.
An AHL first or second line.
Yeah, and then the deep pairings. So I think Jake Sanderson is really stepping into what they envisioned him to be.
Yeah, he is when they paid him, defenseman.
Yeah, when they paid him, I was kind of like, why are you doing that? You already got Shabbat, but the more you look at it, the more I'm like, okay, Sanderson's the guy. Shabbat's the second pair guy.
Yes. Sanderson's the Hannafin, Shabbat's the Petrangelo.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes. And then, Zub and Jensen, again, I'm like, they're okay in their roles. Like, they're not
going to light up anything.
They're not particularly, they're not going to jump off of the page at you, but they're not bad.
Yeah. Who did they draft this year? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
I'll have to look. But yeah, I mean.
But then again, that third pair is kind of when I'm like, oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Jacob Bernard Darker, I think, is pretty young, but Tyler Clevin, I don't know where he played before. I have no idea. It kind of sounds shitty of me as a hockey fan, but don't fucking follow.
There's like 300 guys in the
league. I don't follow
them all.
Senators fucking plug-in bottom pairing defensemen. So
yeah, I like their top 3 pairs. I like their top 3 lines, their top 2 pairs, and then
because Nick Jensen's still a vet. He can bring something with him too. So.
And then I think what was their biggest issue last year was fucking goaltending,
and they solved that shit. So
Eunice Corposello fucking sucks.
Was terrible last year.
Well, and also the team wasn't great around him.
So in his defense, that defense in front of him was terrible, but he also wasn't good
Yeah.
by himself.
So I
They
think
obviously upgraded him. I mean, this is a Vesna winning,
yeah,
goaltender.
and there were times where I'd be like, Olmark's a little overrated, but he's a very good goalie.
Yes, I agree.
He's a high end goalie,
I
so
agree.
I think that alone they can squeeze out 4 extra wins, 5 extra wins.
And then, I mean, really, they were in,
if you
7th
think-
last year? How tight that last wild card was.
Yeah,
All these teams, aside from maybe Montreal, I think, were all within, 4 points of possibly getting a Detroit. Detroit literally came down to they won and hopefully Washington loses.
They literally missed. They missed the playoffs. Game 82 on a tiebreaker.
Yeah, exactly. So this and Buffalo and Ottawa weren't far behind them.
Yeah.
So
I kind of hate myself for it, but
you have them higher than 7.
I have them fairly high.
You said you had
relatively
Buffalo,
high.
so we talked about Buffalo.
Yeah.
You want to do
So
sixth?
number 6.
6 was Buffalo last year.
All right. So this year in 6th place is going to be 3, 2, 1.
Detroit.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
They don't look incredible to me. Everybody's talking about how they're kind of rotating back to being good. I looked at this team. I'm just like, really?
Not really.
Not really. Your second line center is JT Compher.
Yeah, that's okay. And he's
It's
not,
okay, but
but on his wings are old ass Vlad Tarasenko and Patrick Kane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like with Detroit, overall picture, I've been kind of a Detroit truther for a while because it seems like people were starting to not believe in the Yzer plan. But the thing is, they've been getting better and better each year, and I'm like, that's what you want. You want that slow build, and they were trending in the right direction the whole time. But now, they. Like we just said, they missed the playoffs on a tiebreaker, game 82. So the only way to be better is to make the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. But they didn't do anything really this offseason. In fact, I think they got a little worse.
Yeah.
I'm still baffled. Why would you dump Jake Wallman off your D line, your D core?
Yeah, your defense, and they still don't have Mo Sider or Lucas Raymond signed. They're both still unsigned RFAs. I'm sure they're negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at this team, DeBrincat, Larkin, Raymond. I mean, they've got good forwards.
Yeah. And that's why it's hard because I'm like, I can totally see I think Lucas Raymond hit a next level last year.
Yes.
And that's good, but is it going to be enough? Because I think what they really need if they want to succeed is Jonathan Bergeron. He has to take the next step.
He must take.
Simon Evanson. He
must come in and play well. Yeah.
And then Simon Evanson on the D core. Yes. He's only 20, but he's going to have to.
Yeah. He's got to play some minutes.
Step into a good NHL role.
It's defense. So offense was the first line, obviously, DeBrincat, Larkin, Raymond. Great, incredible first line. And then Tarasenko, Comfer, and Kane. Can be good.
That's
if they all stay healthy.
That's kind of an old ass line though.
And then Michael Rasmussen, Andrew Kopp, Jonathan Bergeron. Like we said, Bergeron needs to step it up.
And dude, Andrew Kopp fucking sucks now.
Yeah, remember
when they signed that deal, I was like, people were like, that's a little pricey. I'm like, nah, man, Andrew Kopp's
remember
good.
when you and I were talking about we want Andrew Kopp. We want to trade for Andrew Kopp. He's so good
because he was with
defensively.
Winnipeg, right?
Winnipeg, and then went to New York, I think.
Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, Andrew Kopp's that's a good middle six option.
Not great anymore.
Once he got to Detroit, he fell off hard.
Yeah, and then Tyler Mott went to Detroit. He's pretty decent.
Yeah,
and good for a fourth line. And then Joe Veleno and Christian Fisher.
Yeah,
not a bad fourth line. Way better than what we just looked at in Ottawa.
I just feel like this up and down this whole lineup. I look at it and I just think
nothing stands out. Yeah, nothing stands out other than the first line. Everything else is like.
I'm like, this is a mid team, and when all these teams in this division are so close, I think you need to be a little bit more than mid.
Exactly. And their defense is Ben Sherratt,
awful.
Moritz Seider, great. Simon Edvinsson, Jeff Petrie, who's really kind of starting to go downwards.
Jeff Petrie fucking sucks.
Oli Mata, who's very good. And then Eric Gustafsson came to this team. So, again, you look at the defense, you're like, there's some bright spots, but they're like, there's two guys that are on the back end of their career and really slowing down. And then their they have 4 NHL goaltenders.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Why was your big move?
It's Cam
Talbot, and then also
you have
fucking Jack Campbell
and Jack Campbell.
Also,
you have Alex Lyon.
Yeah, then they brought in a fourth guy too. I don't remember who.
Yeah, and they saw Ville Husso, and then they also have 2 high end goaltender prospects, and what was it? Sebastian Casa, and then
I have no clue. To be honest.
But another high end prospect. But why do you need 4 NHL level goaltenders? What are you gonna play all four of them?
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna have to waive one of them.
The only thing I can think they might do is apparently Thatcher Demko might not be ready for the start of the season.
Use it as a bargaining chip.
Exactly. Maybe fucking sell one to Vancouver at a
They'll
kind of
need
high
it.
price
Yeah,
during
they'll
training
need
camp.
it because
Like,
what Vancouver only has Shelovs and Patera.
Mm-hmm.
Because well, I could see that. But yeah, so we both agree on Detroit in 6th.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, and it sucks because I feel like for a while now it's been Detroit, Buffalo, and Ottawa kind of trying to get out of the basement. I like Detroit the most out of those 3 teams.
Yes.
So I was kind of hoping they would be the one to break through, but now
You're looking
just
at
my
it,
gut,
you're like,
looking at it and going with my gut feeling. I'm like, I don't know, man. I think they're gonna regress.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I agree with you. I when I pulled this all up and I really looked at Detroit because I came in the same idea. I was like, man, they're gonna be good. And you look at the team, you're like, oh man, this is like the most mid team I've ever seen, if I could say that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Agreed.
So yeah, so we both agree Detroit in 6th. You want to go 5th place? So 5th place last year was Detroit.
Okay, so this one I might be getting into hottish take territory, but 5th place, 3, 2, 1 will
Montreal.
I put Tampa.
I sat there and flip-flopped like 3 of these teams for so long.
Oh, like I said, like any argument you present to me, I'll probably fold pretty quick. So I'm like, yeah, I can see that.
So Montreal, like kind of like what you said with 8th, like they're young, but in my opposite, it's like, well, they're young in a division that is aging. The top end is aging
exactly.
very quickly.
And like I said, I do like that young core in Montreal.
Yes.
So sometimes really all they need is just another year of experience and
Nick
physical
Suzuki,
maturity.
Yeah, Nick Suzuki's a bona fide all-star. Slavkovsky had a great year last year.
And if Kirby Doc is healthy,
and the
suddenly that center core looks a lot better.
Yeah, Marty St. Louis might have this team chugging. I think he's a good coach, great coach for a group of young kids. I mean, I don't think they make the playoffs. I just, kind of just flipping all this team around. I did the exact same thing. Like, man, Tampa might finish 5th, but who do I put in front of Tampa? Do I put Montreal in front of Tampa? Do I put Detroit in front of Tampa? Do I put
exactly? And like I said, that's why I texted you as I did. I'm having the hardest time.
Yeah, it's those middle group. I'm just like,
after a while, I was like, I'm just gonna go with my gut.
Yeah. So we talked about Montreal, and then you have Tampa in. So I have Montreal in 5th. You have Tampa in 5th.
I think.
Let's talk about Tampa a little bit.
Yeah, so Tampa, I just feel like they just have lost too much.
They lost so much. I mean, Stammer is a big loss. Yeah, they bring in Jake Gensel, who's good, who's younger.
Yeah, he's younger. I think he's a little bit better 5-on-5.
But this forward group, again, like...
I mean, they have Cam Atkinson on the second line.
Like what we've looked at with other teams, like this doesn't give me, like, oh, wow, they're incredible. Mikey Isamon's going to be on their third line.
Yeah, Connor Sheary, Zemgus Girgensons, fourth line centers Luke Glendening,
Mitchell Chafee.
No idea who that is.
And their defense is pretty old, actually.
I was gonna say, and then
Hedman, McDonough, Cernak.
The word I wrote down for their defense was hodgepodged.
Yeah.
So Victor Hedman, obviously an elite guy, getting a little older.
Yeah, still elite.
Darren Radish, and then Ryan McDonough. Again, I like McDonough, but he's 34.
Yeah. And then Eric Chernak,
JJ Moser, Nick Perbix.
Nick Perbix has been on this team for a long time.
Yeah.
JJ Moser is young, and he was pretty good for Arizona. But, again, like you said, just hodgepodge. Like,
I just feel like this team has been trending downwards.
Steadily, yeah.
It was 2 first-round exits in a row. One against Toronto, which is kind of a shock, and then it wasn't even fucking close against Florida.
No.
Yeah, and then... just losing Stamkos. I'm like, now they're losing. They lost their captain and their leader. This just is not the Tampa team of yesteryear.
No, they're on their downswing. They're feeling the pain of not having high end prospects.
And
I know Andrei Vasilevsky can only fucking drag this team.
That's another thing is Vasilevsky was not good last year.
No, he wasn't.
So suddenly
he turned it on to the back end of the year. Like the middle of the year, he was not looking great at all.
Yeah, so suddenly Vasi looks human. Mm-hmm. He's getting a little older. He's probably, I don't know if he has injuries creeping in.
Oh, I'm sure he does. He is, let's see, Andrei Vasilevsky's going to be 30 this year.
Yeah, so not old, but,
Getting older for a goaltender. He went 30-20, had a 900 even, 2.9, probably like one of his, and then a minus 5.2 goal saves above expected.
Yeah.
So one of his worst years probably he's had.
Yeah, there was a few games I saw where I'm like, he just looks straight up bad.
Yeah,
yeah. And I shouldn't talk too much shit because they ended up beating us, but the 2 games we played against them were just like complete crazy shootouts.
Yeah.
I think the difference is we were missing half our fucking roster.
And it was so much that Jonas Johansson played a lot of games. He played 26 games.
Yeah.
Actually had a pretty... Never mind. He had a bad year.
Oh, yeah. He was bad.
Okay. So, yeah.
And then Matt Tompkins played 6 games. Also.
But that's also the thing. Like, look at these ages on the goaltenders. 29 in Vasilevsky, 28 in Jonas Johansson, 29 in Matt Tompkins. They don't have any youth. They don't have anything coming in.
I can still be completely wrong because Nikita Kucherov's a fucking animal.
Oh, 100%.
But he's not gonna.
He doesn't have his wingman anymore. He doesn't have Steven Stamkos,
and he's not a leader. And
no.
So I'm like, who's gonna lead this team? Probably
Braden Point, Hedman. It's got to be Hedman. If they make a new captain, it's got to be Victor Hedman.
Yeah.
And then Victor Hedman's also 33. You know, he's incredible. Victor Hedman's still one of the best defensemen in the league. But like, can Victor Hedman handle that kind of random mix of defensemen?
And I think with defensemen, you know, every offense is always the first thing to go. So if he loses his offense, I think he'll still be solid defensively.
Correct me wrong. Then, Eric Chernak is only 26. I thought he was older than that. Okay, but keep going. Victor Hedman.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, I think offense is usually the first thing to go. So if he loses, I think he'll still be good.
Yes, he'll be still a steady defenseman. Yes, I agree.
But then it's like, okay, well, who's giving you that offense from the back end? And that's why I was shocked that they traded Sergachev, because it seemed like he was starting to eclipse Hedman for a second there. And then he got injured.
Yeah, he had
rushed
crazy, what, he broke his ankle or some shit like that.
It was like his leg or something.
Yeah,
like,
some insane thing.
Like a significant break, like in his like femur or something.
Yeah, something crazy.
I don't know, man. Like I said, this might be a hot take. I might regret it, but
they
again, like looking at it, I'm just like this. I just don't find this lineup all that inspiring.
Here's names they lost. They lost Stamkos. They lost Duclair. They lost obviously Sergachev. They lost Tanner Jeannot. They lost Calvin DeHaan, who had a decent season with them. Tyler Mott's gone. They've lost a lot of guys.
And then when you look at who they added,
it's not exciting. I mean, we go back to that lineup. I mean, you add Jake Gensel, incredible. He's a great player.
I'm still not over Cam Atkinson on the second line.
On the second line, old ass Cam Atkinson.
Yeah, Zemgus Girgensons, Mitchell Chaffee,
Zemgus Girgensons,
Connor Sherry. Yeah.
It's
I
not,
don't know, man.
It's not a lineup that, like I said,
I do like the first three centers, Point Cirelli, Paul.
Nick Paul is fucking caveman. He's huge. I think he's great. And then Anthony Cirelli is a really like underrated center. I think but like you get to Glendening, it's like, what was he even really playing that much for Dallas?
Yeah,
I think he got scratched here and there. And you're going to be depending on him playing full season on the fourth line center. And like you said, I think the top 5 of this group is great, and then it kind of really falls off after Cam Atkinson, and Nick Paul has a role and he's going to play his role, but then you have him with Connor Sherry and Mikey Esamont. That's not good.
Yeah.
And then you have basically a brand new fourth line, and I can agree with you. I think you said you had him at 5. Adam. Yeah. And so I can see that. I mean, it doesn't move much. We moved him 1 down.
Yeah.
I still think Nikita Kucherov's a fucking animal. That man's a freak.
But even then, you got to think in terms of like, well, how often do guys repeat 150-point seasons back to back?
True, but I mean, he had 100 plus the year before.
Yeah. So he'll always.
And now he's playing with Jake Gensel. So yeah. I mean, he was playing with Stamer last year, but still, I think.
And like I said,
I still think he can replicate a 100+ point season for
probably.
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't want to be too down on him because, like you said, there's still some serious talent here.
Yeah, Jake Gensel can fucking score. So
yeah, and like I said, I think he's a little better 5-on-5 than Stamkos is.
Yeah,
and he'll still
younger,
be lethal option on the power play.
Yes,
so.
I agree. And so now we're going to get to 4th place, who was Tampa Bay last year.
This year in 4th, it'll be 3, 2, 1,
Tampa.
Ottawa. So
you talk about how high you are on Ottawa, because I was have them in 7th.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. I don't want to say I'm high on Ottawa because I'm not.
It's just the middle of the pack is just so.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go anywhere.
I'm basically rearranging these middle teams. To me, what it came down to is I was just kind of following my instinct, and I looked at the lineups, and I was like, Ottawa doesn't have the star power, but they have less holes. To me, like the holes, and the holes they have are where they should be. It's on the 4th line and on the 3rd pair.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
And they're younger, and they're not, burned out teams that have been like playing playoff games for fucking 6 years in a row.
And that's something I wanted to bring up is I think Montreal, Detroit, and Ottawa, more than Buffalo, all four of them have a shot to prey on Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay's played so many fucking playoff games. They have a chance to prey on Toronto. They have a chance to prey on that third seed because those teams have played a lot of fucking hockey.
Yeah.
Or third and fourth seed. But I get your point. Like yeah, you're missing a fourth line, but how can that be fixed? If you're in a playoff position, you can fix that entire fourth line via trade, and they still have some money. You can fix a bottom pairing via trade. Like there's no saying that they can make changes throughout the season. So I could see it. But I think we're all in agreement. Fucking 4th through 8th, you're like, well, I don't fucking know.
Exactly. Like I said, that my name for this division in my head is just the Mush.
Yeah,
it's the Mush.
That's the title, the Mush. So let's go to 3.
So now I think we're getting into the juicy teams here. And
so 3.
It sounds like we have the same 3 teams, just probably in
just
different order, but
probably slightly different order. So last year was Toronto. Let's go 3, 2, 1, 3.
Boston,
Toronto. So I'll say I'll go with my kind of like overview of Toronto. Obviously that that core group stays the same. That core 4: Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander. I think they make it to 3 just out of like firepower like that because that's what it really depends on. In the regular season, and this first 3 centers really aren't that bad. It's Matthews, Tavares, Domi. That's
even Kampf's
a good fourth
line center.
Their center core is solid, very good. I would say very, very good. But then you look at the wings around them.
Yes.
Matthew Knies, I think, is prepped for a great next season. He's gonna be playing with Matthews likely, and Marner. Knies is very good. But then you get Bobby McCann. I don't know who that is.
McMahon,
not McCann.
He
played a little bit, right?
I like Bobby McMahon. I would not have him on
the second line with Tavares and Nylander.
Yeah.
And then on your third, you got Holmberg, Domi, and Kalle Yarncroc. Who Yarncroc's been like?
He's not bad. He's
not bad.
He's a good.
He's a good middle. He's a good bottom 6 guy.
To me, that's about where you want him.
Yeah,
on your third line on the wing.
And then you have Connor Dewar, David Kampf, and Ryan Reeves on your fourth line. Decent fourth line. I think they have that kid that's playing in the Marlies next season that they drafted in the late of the first round, like a couple of years ago, that they're kind of all high on. Don't remember his name, but you know who I'm talking about, right? He was like lighting up juniors the year after they drafted him. And the defense, I put them at 3 because how good.
This is where I was. Yeah. Well, because
this is where you jumped them up more.
I'll say same thing. These 3 teams, I kind of juggled them about, but in my head,
their defense got a lot better. I mean, Riley Tanev, OEL, Timothy Liljegren. They have right now Simon Benoit and Jake McCabe. And Jake McCabe, I mean, that's a great bottom pairing. I think this is a good defense. This is better than the defense we've seen.
Yes,
it's probably the best defense we've.
And I would have been really high on this team if. I had any faith that Yanni Hakanpää
would ever play hockey again.
Yeah.
If Yanni Hakanpää plays, defense, Simon Benoit is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's a very good defense. Yeah.
And then to me, I think the biggest change is Austin Matthews getting the seat. Just kidding. Now, to me, the biggest change is Craig Berube coming in.
Yes.
I do really like Sheldon Keefe. I think he's going to be great in New Jersey.
Yes, I do agree.
I also really like Craig Berube, and I think that they added those pieces on the defense probably at his request.
On purpose, or
to fit his style, I guess.
Yeah, he wanted that defense. Obviously, I mean, I think their 2 big weaknesses are winger depth and then goaltending.
That was the one where I was kind of like, maybe I'll leave him in third.
Joseph Wool is young, but he's never played a full season.
Yeah.
And their backup next year is going to be Anthony Stolarz, who's, again,
a good
great backup. But what happens
if there's a situation
where they're
he's
both
gonna
injured,
where he's going to have to take the reins?
Like, he's going to have to take the reins for like 30 games. Is he going to be able to last 30 games? Like, because, again, Joseph Wool hasn't played a full healthy season. He's been injured. I mean, look what happened last year in the playoffs. He got injured and couldn't play.
When I look at this tandem, I see 2 1B goalies.
Yes.
I don't see a
There's
starter
no dominant.
here.
Yeah. Like, exactly.
I can't say it's a 1A 1B. It's 2 1Bs.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. So I had them at 3. You had Boston at 3. So
yeah. So Boston, to me, I'm just like, Marchand's 36. They add Elias Lindholm. I'm not convinced that's like a real needle mover. It just kind of depends on what version of Lindholm shows up.
Yeah, because the Lindholm in Vancouver wasn't very good,
and I could look like a complete fool because last year I was like, oh my God, their top 2 centers are Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha. Are you shitting me? I think they were in first in that division until the very end, and then I think Florida swooped in and took it at the end.
Yeah. So it's Zacha, Lindholm, Pasta. That's pretty good for first line. And then Marchand, Coyle, Morgan Geekie, who Geekie's been very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trent Frederick, Matthew Portrat, and Justin Brazeau.
Mm-hmm.
And then Max Jones, I believe, came from Anaheim. John Beecher and Mark Kastelik. That fourth line is probably not the best. I do really like Matthew Portrat. He was really good. I think he got injured, right?
Yeah, to me, what this team's really going to hinge on how good they're good is Ken Portrat, and then he's not on this listing, but Fabian Lysell. But if they can kind of hit the next steps in their game,
yes,
I think they can really help keep Boston afloat a little longer.
I do agree. Yeah, I think Portrat's got I don't know if we're saying his name but Portrat's got a chance to, if he plays a full season and plays the way he was playing that first part of the season.
I feel like he can be like an Anton Lundell type player.
And he could surpass Charlie Coyle on this depth chart. I think he definitely can. Yeah, and then John Beecher's young too, I think. Mm-hmm. And so they got a decent amount of youth.
To me, I'm just like I said, their biggest issue was the center core, and I'm just like not convinced that Lindholm does much. And then I don't know if this is how it'll actually line up, but the daily face-off projection has Zacha bumped to the wing, and I'm like, so you didn't really fix anything.
No, yeah, you just kind of moved your issue.
Yeah.
And then defense is Zadorov, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Mason Lohrei, and Andrew Peak. That's a good defense.
Yeah, I think Charlie McAvoy is one of the better defensemen in the league.
Probably one, top
5.
Yeah, easy. I would
top 7.
Yeah, top of the league. He's probably the best American defenseman outside of Adam Fox and Quinn Hughes.
I think another thing that concerns me, and it's not even like a major concern, but just to explain why I put them at 3. I think they took the Nikita Zadorov bait that everyone did, where everyone's like, "Oh, suddenly this guy's a top 4 defenseman." I'm like, no, he's a bottom pair defenseman.
He's been a career bottom pairing defenseman.
Yeah.
He just got Showtime and press because of that McDavid thing, and he was talking.
And his attitude.
Yeah,
like. To be clear,
you need those guys. I loved it.
To be clear, I loved it, and I really do like Zadorov.
But I don't think it's a top pairing defenseman.
Yeah, I think. Put it to you this way: people love to like look at his offense and look at his numbers, but then you see he's played for like 8 teams. I'm like,
yeah, he's played for.
There comes a time where you go, oh, how does a guy with these offensive stats change teams so often?
Yeah,
and I think around the 30 game mark, Bruins fans are going to be like, oh, that's why.
Yep. No, I agree with you. And then obviously they have Jake Swayman, but they still have to sign him.
Yeah, so and apparently all
not
reports
going well.
are as they are not close.
They're far apart. They're far apart both on term and AAV.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not good.
Especially if it drags
your backup is Judas Corpusalo.
Yeah. If it drags on into like training camp,
it's not good because he's not going to. I mean, he's probably training by himself, but like he's not getting NHL shots on him.
Yeah,
he's not in training camp and everything. I don't know about that. So you said Boston at 3. I had Toronto at 3. So I think we're gonna have the same order.
Yeah. So I will final note on Boston. I will say they have such a great winning culture there. Good coaching, good vet core.
Yes.
So I could see them finishing second or first again.
Yep. So you want to go to number 2?
Yeah. So who was 2 last year?
Boston.
Okay. So this year, number 2 will be 3, 2, 1. Boston. Toronto.
Okay. So we just
flipped.
So we don't have to talk about it. We haven't flipped. I mean, we probably have same reasoning.
Exactly.
They could go either way.
I think Boston's a little more balanced of a team. Toronto's a little more high end than some holes.
Yes. But Toronto, I would argue Toronto.
I would say they're now both pretty well coached.
Yeah, Toronto got much better on defense. They could move up to second. And I think both these teams are pretty solid. Coaching's great. Yeah, I mean, I could see him finishing either or. And in case it wasn't obvious, we both have Florida at number 1. Like,
Alex, we got to do the bit. Okay, so last year, number 1 was the Bruins or the
Florida.
Panthers. This year it'll be 3, 2, 1. The Panthers.
The Panthers.
Oh yeah, all right.
Surprise.
I will ask though, were you tempted for any reason to have them lower?
I was.
So was I.
For a little bit, I had Boston at number one, and then I also thought about Toronto. I had basically these three, like we kind of talked about with 4 through 8, kind of. I mean, not 8, 4 through 7. Sorry, Buffalo, you're going to be dog shit. But 4 through 7, I had kind of like, man, Ottawa could do this. Montreal could be better. Detroit could do this. Tampa Bay could fall. Tampa Bay could still be good. I had kind of that same thing of like 1 through 3. I'm like, Toronto could just fucking light it up. Their defense is way better. Joseph Woll could be incredible, and they could play well. Or, they might fall, might regress a little bit. If Austin Matthews doesn't come out hot, Mitch Marner's got this whole contract situation and everything. Boston's lost some key players, but they're deeper. They could be great, or they could be in the middle. Florida's lost some key players too, but they've brought in a little bit of youth, and like they didn't lose it a crazy amount. If that makes sense. Like, their fourth line is new, but they brought in Tomas Nosek, who's a great fourth line center. Their defense did get worse.
It did. That was kind of my concern. And then to me, honestly, my biggest concern wasn't the talent; it was the fact that these guys have played so much hockey.
This is going
to eventually it's going to creep up.
Tampa Bay or even us, those teams that make to the conference finals or to the Stanley Cup finals, it's going to creep up and it's going to hit you.
Yes,
it's just undeniable. Like you've played, like what we talked about a couple of years ago when Tampa Bay started really like getting eliminated, early. We're like, well, these guys have played like
3 finals in a row.
Yeah, they've played like 4 full seasons of hockey in 2 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so you're gonna get to that point now with Florida. They've played hard series, long series, physical series over the last 2 years, and they've also played physical hockey regular season. The wear and tear is going to catch up with some of these guys. Yeah. It's just undeniable. Yeah, exactly. You can make the argument, some of these guys are young. Sure, that's fine. But Anton Lundell broke his leg last year, or 2 years ago. Alexander Barkov is great, but he's getting older.
Yeah, Kachuk had his fucking sternum caved in at one point.
At one point. Sam Reinhart's getting older. Sam Bennett is getting older.
Yeah.
Do I think any of these guys are bad at hockey? No, they're all great. Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart had career years, and they got paid like they should. And I think Kachuk is a great hockey player. Alexander Barkov is probably my favorite hockey player outside of Jack Eichel and Mark Stone.
I love Barkov. One of my notes for Florida, I just wrote Barkov, enough said.
Exactly. So like this team's a good team, but what happens if the injury bug starts
not even
in?
just the injury bug, but also what we saw with our team. My theory, our team this year, our biggest weakness was just kind of that emotional burnout of finally winning, and then just kind of being like, now what?
And for them, it's 2 years in a row, though.
Yes,
yeah, they did win.
I feel like this year they were hugely motivated by the
loss to us. Yeah,
that humiliating
loss.
one-sided loss to the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
That being said, as far as like injury bugs and wear down, this is where the good thing is I'm looking at this group. I'm like, this to me is still easily the best and deepest forward group in this division.
Easily.
Possibly in the league.
Yeah, I would argue that too. So forwards, you got Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart. Great first line. You can even put Kachuk up there if you need to. And then you got Kachuk, Bennett, Rodriguez. That's good, but Rodriguez starting to get a little up there. He is 30, so that's not too bad.
Yeah.
I thought he was older.
Yeah, I don't worry about guys until they start hitting like
33,
34, 35.
I agree. And then the second line or third line, I think, is going to be very good.
Yes.
Eetu Luostarinen and Anton Lundell, who we both you and I love. We had them on our team, Finland, as a pair. They're incredible. I love them.
Baby Barkov.
Yeah, I love both of these guys, and they have them with their young guy, Maki Samskovich.
Not too familiar with him.
So he was a draft pick a few years ago. He's kind of moved to the top end of their high end of their what they have in the pipeline. He's pretty good. I think he'll probably play this year. This is at least what Daly's Faceoff has. I think he's got a chance to play. And then the fourth line is Jesper Bachqvist, Tomas Nosek, and Mackenzie Entwistle.
So kind of a brand new fourth line.
Not kind of. Literally brand new fourth line.
I forgot where Boquist was. Like Columbus or something?
Something like that. But not a bad fourth line. Tomas Nosek, VGK, we know him. We know Nosek well. He's great.
A good fourth line center.
Yeah, perfect fourth line center.
And Whistle was with Chicago
for a while. I think he's just kind of like that fourth line, like enforcer, like kind of beef guy. So not a bad forward group.
Yeah.
Defense, we've got Forsling and Ekblad, great. Kulikov, Mikkola, pretty good. And then you get to Uvis Bolinskis. I have no fucking idea who that is.
Nope.
And then Nate Schmidt.
Who he play for? Uvis Bolinskis.
And then Nate Schmidt. I think this is a good signing.
I thought that was a great pickup. I think people have
really came
forgotten about him.
how good he was and how well he played. It's just he got put into a position to be a top guy in Winnipeg, and shame on Winnipeg.
It's one of those things where I think it's the classic case of he was just a little overpaid.
Yes, yes, I agree.
But now that he's in an appropriate role, I think he's going to thrive there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be just fine.
And on a good team.
Yeah, I don't think that defense is terrible. I mean, that bottom pair is not the best outside. I mean, Schmidt's good, but like again,
no clue.
I've heard that name.
I'm guessing he's a young guy. Making
I would
his
assume
debut.
so. I mean, we can even check. Belinsky,
27.
20. He's gonna be 27, so he's not even young. Ooh,
Yeah.
so that's a little
And
concerning.
apparently, he played 26 games.
So yeah, they probably had to bring him up.
He was 0 plus minus. So.
There
or is
you
that
go.
plus minus? Or is
Yeah,
that...
0. 0. 8. That's penalty minutes.
Okay. Solid.
I
plug-in
think they
guy,
still
I
have
guess.
Tobias Bjornfoot on that team, I think, so he might pop in. But then obviously goaltending is Bobrovsky and then Spencer Knight. Good goaltending.
That was another question for this team that I'm wondering is, can Knight play? Will he play?
Can he
And
spell some
what will he look like when he does?
Yeah, because
like it's going to be a big jump from
yes.
not playing too many games to suddenly being expected to play like 25 games.
Yeah, because
probably.
he was in the player assistant program for a long more than half the year last year.
Yeah, for
and then
severe
OCD.
OCD.
Yeah, and then Bob, he played a lot. Bobrovsky played, holy shit, 58 games. He had a great year. 915, 237, 18.1 goal saves above expected. Bob had a great year, and then he had great playoffs.
But I think the reason why he played so great is they had Stolarz there to play 27 games.
So Knight has to back that up because Bob is 35.
Because Bob can get worn down.
Oh, Bob, we've seen it.
When he's tired, he isn't good.
It's awful, yeah. Yeah, I think this team just goes right back to 1. Now, are they one of the best teams in the league? I don't know.
They're definitely not as strong as they just were.
Definitely, I agree.
But they're still very good. To me, like I said, it's...
Who else could really be a number 1 team in the league? I don't think they want to be a President's Cup trophy winning team, but that's also to say I could see Boston finishing first. Could see Toronto finishing first.
Yeah, to me, and then there's always those teams that surprise you, right?
Yes.
What I keep thinking as a parallel is after we won the cup, we were like, look how deep this team is, and we kept everyone except Smith, and we even added pieces, and oh my god, we were so good.
They can even start hot, and then
then we finished 4th. We
struggled
like,
for
we looked like
playoff
ass half the year.
I could totally see that happening.
So it's easy to have that recency bias and be like, well, they were so great 3 months ago. Why won't they be great in a month?
Exactly.
It doesn't always work out that way.
No, I totally agree.
But that being said,
I think
all we can do is look at rosters right now, and looking at the roster, this is still the best team in the division.
No, I agree with you. I don't see any other reason. So that was the Atlantic. Next week we're gonna come with
my Atlanta
Metro. Spoiler alert. Pittsburgh's gonna be one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, in Columbus.
In Columbus. Oh
Metro,
Columbus is in that division. Jesus Christ,
dude, the Metro is bad. So bad.
So it's gonna get a lot easier from here.
I guess next week, just join us as we talk shit
about the Metro.
I was gonna say under the guise of calling it a season preview.
Exactly. But until then, stay gold.
Stay gold, friends.